Hello, fish fans! I heard you guys are into fish and stars. Well, Bushiroad said, let me answer your prayers. And they made a set combining fish and stars. Would you look at that? It's like starfish, like the snack, but it's cards now. So anyway, the new lyrical set dropped, and it is actually quite good. And so as usual, as per tradition, we're gonna make a quick little first analysis of the set. There's a couple new ride lines, and there's also quite a few revivals for old ride lines. So we're gonna kind of break things down and talk about it. We went over the entire set in detail on the stream, but I'll just give you my kind of like short and sweet. There is no way to sort these in nice order like clans. It's just one big lyrical set. So we'll just kind of break things down as we go and talk about all the different ride lines and the generic cards in the set too. So one of the new ride lines is Absolute Zero Sagitta. Her gimmick is that she gives both players a debuff, where when any of you would attack for the 4th time or more, you have to discard a card. So if it's a rear guard attack. So it's literally welcome back Honolly. You know, Honolly died whichever year. Absolute Zero Sagitta born 2024, welcome back Honolly. But the whole point is that you give the debuff to both players. She lets you gain a drive or energy 4 and a 10k as well. But she also says that you can once per turn, if you discard a card during your turn, CB1 to draw one. So it makes up for if you want to do multi-attack. And she does have a multi-attacker, which is this girl. This very pretty lady says when you attack with your Absolute Zero Vanguard, if you don't have her on board, you call her out from drop. So she gives you the 4th attack, and then you can proc a lot of your on discard effects that this deck has. But the problem is that it feels like the power in the deck is a bit lacking. It's just her that gains the power. You're discarding for a lot of the cost. It feels a bit awkward, but the debuff on the opponent side is pretty cool, right? It tells a lot of these multi-attacking decks like, hey, if you don't discard 1 for your 4th attack and more, you're gonna be in trouble. Suddenly decks that, you know, want to do and like live by multi-attacks like Shoujo Doji they don't even have the hand to afford this, right? They need to be spending that hand for resources and next turn's combos and whatnot. So it does position itself in an interesting way in the meta, where the deck itself, I think, is not necessarily that good right now, but because of the decks that are popular, like Archite, Shoujo Doji, Shiranui even, it makes things very awkward, right? So I think this actually might be, especially against Shiranui, right? It's like, because your dominated units count towards your opponent's attack count, you can technically punish them for that as well. So while she might not be rated very highly, I think it's worth tinkering with her in the current meta. Another new ride line is Coral. So Coral got brought back as an encounter, and she's basically Benny from the last set. So the Vispo collab ride line, where she gains a whole lot of power. She gives all your Coral units plus 5k shield, and it's like when she attacks, she puts once per turn, she puts a card from hand to soul to draw one. And if you put a Coral, she then gives herself the skill that she stands one of your rear guards. So she makes 4 attacks, but the grade 1 Coral from the ride line basically says that when you put it into the soul by an effect, you essentially get to give your Coral triple drive. So that immediately works really well. The grade 2 says you draw 1 and energy charge 1 and give a rear guard plus 5k when you put it to soul from hand. So you proc a bunch of good effects, and she also gives some really good scaling. So she basically says, like, start of your battle phase, energy blast 4. For every 2 Corals in soul, she gives you front row plus 5k. So if you have 4, she gives plus 10 already. And this also works when you go first, by the way. So it's basically like crest scaling. And if your opponent's on grade 3 or greater, she also gets a crit. So she's literally Vanguard 0 Coral. And I think that's pretty good too. So then the other new ride line is Vare, and she's the most disappointing one. She's very generic. Her ride line's generic, and she's basically like a break ride, but only on over herself, which is really weird that they make her work with Labrador. That's like my biggest disappointment. I expected her to just be Labrador support, but she isn't. She's an act that if you didn't ride this turn by an effect, you Soul Blast 1 and from hand ride a Vare as stand. If you did, you draw 1, give your Vanguard 10k, but if your opponent's on grade 3, then you give your whole front row 10k instead of herself. And when she attacks, you CB1, bounce a rear guard back to hand, and call a grade 3 or lower from hand to rear. So she makes 4 attacks. There is an old double rare from Lyrical Set 3 that can make this into 5 attacks, but it's a little bit counter blast heavy too. Her support is okay. She has a searcher for herself, and she has a counter charger that also, you know, basically gets power, draws cards. So, you know, like Rosa can be used more than once per turn when she's placed. She draws you cards, which is good. But the problem is that Vare doesn't really work with the other bosses. She's just kind of like on her own. And I'm not too sure how I feel about that. I was kind of hoping she had that synergy that she had in the original, but instead it feels like they wanted to recreate the V era Vare, not the OG era Vare, which, how are we feeling about that in the comments? Let me know. So my ranking of Vare is not very high, but a lot of the other ride lines got new support. So a lot of the, what was it? Lyrical Set 3 ride lines got reworked. So Mediel now gives a crit to the thing that she calls. So she's like, count +1, soul +1, call a card from drop, then reveal top card. If it's a normal unit, draw 1, and then the called unit that you called for the effect, it's a crit. And she has a restanding, restanding rear that if you give a crit, it's really strong, and she gives a front row buff. Michu is basically Poison in Paradise Eva. So if you ride her over original Michu, search your deck for a Nokono or a Cannonball, add it to hand after revealing it, and then activate Persona Ride, right? She binds the original copy of Michu to retire an opponent's rear guard, reduce the Cannonball cost that you pay by Soul Blast 2, and then at the end of the turn, if she's your Vanguard, she lets you re-ride the old Michu, right? So you get to do the whole thing that all of these glitter decks get to do, and she also on attack lets you Soul Blast 2 to retire an opponent's rear guard and get 10k, but you usually replace that Cannonball ability. Her Nokono is really cool though, because she's a 20k attacker that also gets to drive check. So now you're doing twin drive on Vanguard, then the Grado on Nokono becomes your Vanguard, so it's third check, and then this also checks, so you get 4 checks per turn, which is actually very good. And on top of all that, she also got a card that allows her to ride from deck. So instead of waiting to distribute it as a promo, they just made it into a rare. So this is basically one of those like Energy Blast 3, top 7, search for a Cannonball, and then you can ride the new Michu from deck on even turn 3. So it's basically Migrar, but for Michu, which is really strong. So overall, I think Michu just from these 3 cards alone got a lot better. It's the only lyrical deck I'm building out of this set, and I'll be the only one I'm keeping in lyrical in general because I like glitter decks. But so I think she has some pretty good potential as well, but there are definitely some bigger winners in this set. Hazelit is the one that I'm not too sure about. She basically Energy Blast 3 to give 5 normal unit rear guards, the effect that when this unit ends its attack, you draw 1 and bot deck it. So I have heard that Hazelit has ways to swap rear guards. So you can do like 6 attacks per turn, because she also gives your back row middle rear guard circle unit behind her basically the ability to attack. So you have rear, then rear behind Vanguard and Vanguard. So that's 4. And then if you can swap stuff, then you can apparently do 6. So, and everything basically, goes to bot deck and draws cards. So your hand is pretty full too. So the potential is definitely there. As long as the power is there. That's like my biggest concern. But I think I'll let the Hazelit enthusiasts in the comments also let me know more about that. So I think that the potential is definitely pretty good. Then Lilfa, she basically became Die Liner. So she basically says that all of your grade 2 or greater rear guards get boost, and all of your Lilfa grade 3s get 20k shield, including the old ones. And when she attacks, if all of your rear guards, all of your units, sorry, are grade 2 or greater, counterblast 1, choose 3 rear guards, bounce them to hand, and then choose 3 grade 3s from hand and call them to different rear guard circles in the same column. So basically makes 4 attacks, but also very beefy. Definitely something that might actually be quite good. She even has a support card that's also like 10k shield that generates, like, lets you bounce stuff. So probably pretty good just in terms of like being a pseudo Die Liner in general. But then we finally get onto the 2 big winners next to Coral. I think the biggest winners in this set are definitely Coral, Michu, but then the other 2 that in my opinion are the top of the top are Kyoka and Lutetia. Kyoka I think is the one that I think a lot of people understand why she is, a big winner. So Kyoka basically says, if you've played a magazine this turn, she gives your front row plus 5k. And if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, she lets you have a Kyoka behind her, have the ability to attack and get 5k. So if you put a Persona Ride behind her, and then attack with it, and then attack with the friend set later down the line, you can bounce that Persona Ride, and then what do? You say Soul Blast 1, declare grade 1, 2, or 3, and then look at top 5, and reveal a unit card with the grade that you declared, and a magazine order, 1 of each, and add them to your hand. So that way, you Persona Ride, Soul Blast 1, the Kyoka goes to draw, then you revive the Kyoka with the magazine order, and then you use Friend Set after the, Kyoka attacks behind Vanguard to, bounce it. There you go. Infinite Persona Ride loop while doing 6 attacks. Pretty good. It's pretty good. So Kyoka, very strong. Like, she was already one of the slept on underdog decks that we were using in tournaments in our team, but now she's going to be a top dog. She's going to be very, very good. So definitely excited for Kyoka. I think she's the biggest winner of the set. And then Lutetia is basically the end. So she can only be ridden over Lutetia grade 3. So, either over, you can't ride her from ride deck basically. You have to ride over the old one and draw into her. And when you do ride her, you search your deck or drop for a Jujutsu order. So like the, her order, I forget the English name for it, but it's called Jujutsu something in Japanese. And so add it to your hand. So you either search the Blitz or the promo or the normal order. Yeah, Cursed Play order, thank you. And then her other effect is once per turn you CB1, and depending on the number of Cursed Play cards in your soul, she gains the following effects. So if you have 2 or more, she gives your front row 10k, which is already really good. If you have 4 or more, she gets to re-stand at the end of her attack for the cost of discard 1, but loses a drive. And if you have 6 or more, she doesn't lose drive by effects. So then she is literally the end, and she goes 2 drive check, 2 drive check, while being at least 23k power. Probably more than that though. So the thing is that the old Lutetia grade 3's numbers were already quite good, and she had really good synergy with the double rare grade 1 in set 2 that lets you play an order from deck and then just send it to drop and then put it to bot deck after you play it. So it had really good synergy with that because the orders go to soul, so they don't go to bot deck because of that. And because of that, it's really easy to set up her condition. So I think Lutetia, even if you have to spend a turn on the old Lutetia, is still very good, right? So other than that, there was a lot of support. They did a reprint for both Valshablan as well as the OT, and they reprinted the PG, and they also reprinted Aura. So that's also very nice. There's some good generic cards in here too. This one in particular is when placed on rear, counterblast 1, look at top 5, find a non-regular piece order, reveal it, add it to your hand. If you didn't, countercharge 1. So even if you whip it, it doesn't cost anything. It's a unit on board. Then there's the Sedna and Aqua ride line. So Sedna says when you ride over her with Aqua, Soul Blast 1, look at top 7 for a grade 2 or greater unit card, add it to your hand. Very generic. Very generic ride line that you can splash into virtually anything. And then you've also got Aqua that when you ride over her with a grade 3 mermaid, so not everything can use this, but still quite a few of the grade 3s are mermaids. Then you look at top 5, find a grade 2 or greater unit card, reveal it, add it to your hand. So just, running the grade 2 and the grade 1 is already pretty good in terms of finding cards. So good generic rad line. A lot of other older decks got support as well. So essentially everything, I think every single rad line has some form of support. You've got Celestial support. That's not necessarily that great. You got yourself this Willista support that basically lets you get back either your Willista grade 3 or your gems back into hand very easily. So it's very strong. So of course the new ride lines have a lot of support too. There's new Earnest Corrects. There's 2 new Earnest Corrects with Earnest Correct names. So Clarissa finally has some real support too. You've got a Coral Countercharger. Assassize support, not so good, but Assassize Kyrie's been getting really good support in the last few sets, so she didn't really need it in the first place. Then there's also lots of good powerful support. So this one's on attack, if your soul is 0, counterblast 1, energy blast 3, draw 1, and get plus 10k. So because of the way that Arminia works, this is just energy blast 3 to draw 1, get 10k for the turn. And because it's for the turn, that also means that if you restand this, it gains 20k in total, and you're drawing 2 cards for 6 energy in total too. So very good powerful support. Trick and Treat support, not so good. Lorna Roll got a Tith Fault, the Keter Sanctuary generic that looks at top 5, calls something, and also is a 20k attacker. Literally the exact same card, but instead of Soul Blast, it's Energy Blast 3, so it's pretty good. Friend support, really good. Charmot support as well, that helps you set up your board better. You've got some really good support for Shiana. Shiana got a multi-attacker, so she can do 5 attacks now while having her very annoying floodgate-like effect. So you just have to attack, with your Shiana if your opponent has an empty front row. And what's crazy is that Shiana had another support card. This one was a common. So this thing is like, when placed on rear, if your Vanguard is a Shiana grade 3 or greater, you soul blast a Shiana or a trigger to return all of your opponent's front row back to their hand. And then end of turn, if your Vanguard is a Shiana grade 3 or greater, Energy Blast 3 to bounces back to hand. So you can do this every single turn. And this has a funny interaction in Premium if you play Shiana, where if you play this with a G Guardian during your opponent's turn, you get to bounce their front row mid-battle phase, which is pretty good, especially against like Axel clans, I guess. So Shiana got some really good support in this set too. Felty got herself a really nice one too, where she puts a Felty from drop to soul just from being cold, and she lets you recuperate cards from your soul. So you get to get a Felty from your soul back to hand, so she loops Persona, right? Like this one card does so much for Felty. So a lot of these old decks got some really strong support. Pacifica got a really good support card too, so virtually everything, like overall, the quality of the set outside of like some random commons is insanely good. This, in terms of what it does for the decks, is very, very useful and overall a very big support. I think the only criticism I can give is like the new ride lines. I think Coral and these two I really like, but I'm a little bit disappointed in Vert. I think Vert they could have done a little bit better with. Coral is very strong, and Sagitta, while not very strong, has a very interesting position in the meta where if they made her strong, she might have been too good. So the set comes out in September in English, I'm pretty sure. I think right now the release schedule is that, you know, you got your festival booster coming out soon, but then there's the set 3 coming out next month for English, and then this should be the month after. If you're curious about prices, everything is overall pretty chill. So even like Valshablan reprint has dropped like a third of its price. And a lot of the other triple rares are also like 100 yen, 400 yen, 200 yen, except for Coral. Coral's being hyped up quite a bit. She's a bit over 1,000, but might still drop from here. And also the generic we see here is about 2,000 yen, even though nothing really uses her. But overall, the set is pretty cheap, so a lot of the cards are easy to pick up, as long as you have the generics from the past, like Yuika, and stuff like, I mean, Valsh was reprinted, but especially Francette has been going up a lot in Japan. So if you don't have Francette and you plan to play something like Kyoka, definitely a good card to pick up. But yeah, I'm keeping this video short because Lyrical will get support basically next month in Divine's set 4. So we're going to look at what support and the new ride line that is going to be in there too. So overall, I think they did a really good job of catching up every other ride line up to speed and giving them energy users, which is very important too, because it's a new resource that, you know, these decks just had to put in gun cyclers until now, but now they don't need to. So that also makes the price of a lot of these decks go down too. So overall, pretty banger set. I don't really have a big rating to give. I think overall it's like a 4.5 out of 5 for the whole set. Like, I think they just kind of missed on the Vert ride line and everything else is fine. But yeah, so I was gonna call it for our little discussion. First impressions of the Lyrical set. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below as well, what you think of all of these new cards. I think overall there's some definitely interesting things happening here, but most of my excitement, you know, is basically in Michu and of course in the sets going forward. But with that, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and become a YouTube channel member if you want to support the channel and get access to some bonus content such as exclusive POV fights. But otherwise, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.